The following story is told through the eyes of Amy Loughren, the nurse who risked her life to catch her best friend, America's most prolific serial killer.
My name is Amy Loughren. For years, I worked the night shift in the intensive care unit, a place where the line between life and death is thinner than a sheet of paper. It was exhausting, brutal work, but I love it. I lived for saving people. But back in 2003, I was hiding a massive, terrifying secret of my own. I had severe cardiomyopathy, a progressive, degenerative heart disease. My own heart was failing me, randomly spiking to dangerous, lethal rhythms. It left me dizzy, sweating, and suffocating in the dark corridors of the hospital. I couldn't tell a soul. If the administration found out, or if I took medical leave before working a full year to qualify for benefits, I would lose my health insurance. Without that insurance, I couldn't afford the treatments. I would die. I had to push through the physical agony, night after night, just to stay alive and provide for my two young daughters, Alex and Maya. I was completely alone in that living nightmare. I was drowning until Charlie arrived. When Charlie Cullen started working on my shift at Somerset Medical Center, it felt like an answer to a prayer. He wasn't just a good nurse. He was exceptional. He was calm, deeply capable, and always knew exactly what to do in a crisis. It didn't take him long to notice my secret. One night, he found me slumped in the break room, gasping for air, my heart hammering violently against my ribs. Instead of turning me into administration, he looked into my eyes and protected me. He promised to keep my secret. Charlie began taking over the heaviest patient assignments. He shared my medication rounds. He literally covered for me whenever my heart failed me. We became inseparable. He didn't just save my job, he became part of my life. He came to my house, played with my girls, and cooked dinner for us. He was my best, most trusted friend, a man with profound empathy who genuinely seemed to care about the suffering of others. He was the only person in the world helping me survive. Or at least, that was the mask he wanted me to see. The illusion shattered into a million pieces when two police detectives, Danny Baldwin and Tim Braun, showed up at the hospital. They were investigating a series of sudden, unexplained patient deaths in our ICU. The lab reports revealed bizarre toxicity levels in the victim's blood, mostly massive doses of digoxin, a heart medication, and insulin. Patients who were stable, patients who were fully recovering, would suddenly go into sudden cardiac arrest and die within minutes. The hospital administration was being deliberately uncooperative, hiding files and delaying the investigation to protect themselves. So, the detectives approached me in secret. They handed me sheets of computer spreadsheets detailing medication logs and nurse schedules. They asked me to help them make sense of the data. As I stared at those papers, the blood completely drained from my face. My hands began to shake. I looked at the exact times specific lethal drugs were ordered, immediately canceled, and then pulled from the electronic dispensing cabinets. I didn't need to be a forensic genius to read between the lines. The patterns, the times, the system login codes. Everything pointed to one single name. The man who held the hands of my patients. The man who held my secret. Everything pointed to Charlie. I couldn't breathe. I looked at the detectives and told them what the numbers meant. But as we dug deeper into his past, we uncovered an even uglier, more cynical truth. Somerset wasn't his first stop. Charlie had worked at 9 other hospitals before coming to ours, and everywhere he went, people died. Other hospitals had strongly suspected him. They had found empty, unauthorized vials in his trash. They noticed the massive death spikes during his shifts, But instead of calling the police, those hospital executives made a cowardly, monstrous choice. They feared multi-million-dollar lawsuits. They feared bad publicity that would ruin their medical brands. So they simply fired Charlie, gave him clean recommendations, and passed a serial killer to the next hospital just to protect their own money. They protected their reputation, and because of their silence, more innocent people died. I knew right then that the system wasn't going to stop him. The institutions were complicit. If Charlie was going to be caught, it had to be me. The detectives asked me to do something that terrified me to my absolute core. They asked me to wear a hidden wire, meet Charlie for dinner at a local restaurant, and tried to get him to confess on tape the night of the dinner. My heart was pounding so hard I was terrified the microphone hidden beneath my clothes would pick up the sound of my own illness. Sat across from Charlie at a local restaurant, looking into the eyes of a mass murderer. I had to smile. I had to pretend everything was normal, laughing and chatting, while knowing that a team of armed detectives was listening to every single breath from a surveillance van parked outside in the dark. I leaned in, trying to sound like the worried friend, and gently brought up the hospital investigation. Told him I knew something was wrong, and I asked him if he had anything to do with it. Charlie's demeanor changed instantly. The warm, helpful friend vanished. His posture stiffened, and his eyes turned cold, dark, and completely lifeless. He leaned across the table, stared directly into my eyes, and whispered,
"I want to go down fighting."
That phrase was enough to give the police what they needed. They arrested Charlie on December 12, 2003. But the battle wasn't over. Inside the interrogation room, Charlie refused to speak. He sat in total heavy silence for hours, staring at the wall. The detectives were desperate. Without a confession, the circumstantial evidence might not hold up, and the case could fall apart. They came to me and asked for one final favor. They asked me to go inside the room alone with him. Walking into that interrogation room was the hardest thing I've ever done. Charlie was sitting there, looking small, cold, and defeated. I sat opposite him and did something no one expected. I took his hands. I didn't yell at him. I didn't call him a monster. I appealed to the friend I thought I knew. I cried, and I told him that the families of the victims needed peace. I told him he needed to tell the truth. Finally, he looked at me, and in a low, flat, emotionless voice, he started talking. He confessed to killing 30 to 40 people right there. But as he spoke, it became clear he didn't even remember their names. Later, experts who studied his 16-year career estimated that Charlie didn't kill 40 people. He likely killed closer to 400. My best friend was the most prolific serial killer in American history. In 2006, I stood in the courtroom as Charles Cullen was sentenced to 11 consecutive life sentences. He will die behind bars, and he deserves every single second of it. Charlie always claimed he killed out of compassion, to end the suffering of the sick. He called himself a mercy killer. But I knew our patients. Many of them were recovering. They were laughing with their families just hours before Charlie entered their rooms with a lethal syringe. It wasn't mercy. It was control. He wanted to play God. Today, I have had my heart transplant, and I am healthy. New laws exist because of what we uncovered, like the Cullen law forcing hospitals to report suspicious behavior immediately. But the memories of those nights still haunt me. I survived a serial killer, and I helped stop him. But every time I walk into a hospital and hear the steady, mechanical beep of a heart monitor, I am reminded of the terrifying truth. Sometimes the person hiding behind the white coat isn't there to save you.